Ladies and gentlemen, that is it for Survivor Series War Games 2025. Welcome to my full show review. We are going to go through every single match that happened at Survivor Series War Games. I'm going to tell you what I liked, what I didn't like, did I agree with the decisions, and I'm also going to talk about where storylines can go as we go towards the Royal Rumble and, of course, WrestleMania. For this review, I do bring a unique perspective because I was at the show. I was third row for Survivor Series War Games, so I don't know what the general feeling online is yet. I don't know what the crowd sounded like on TV. All you're gonna get is my perspective from somebody sitting right in the audience. Since my perspective comes from somebody that was at the show, I would love to hear your opinion from those watching at home, so please use the comment section to discuss. And as always, don't forget to subscribe to this channel, ring the bell for notifications. If you're a wrestling fan, I am incredibly confident that you are gonna fall in love with this YouTube channel because we always upload daily wrestling content. All right, folks, let's talk about Survivor Series War Games 2025. So for these PLE reviews, I often like to start them by talking about things that aren't match related. So let's start by talking about the crowd because I do bring that perspective of somebody that was in attendance. And I will say, if you tell me right now that the crowd on TV didn't sound great, I wouldn't blame you because I don't think that that was the loudest crowd ever. It was loud in there. The speaker system was insanely loud in there, but I've definitely been part of rowdier crowds like in Toronto. I thought we were rowdier when we were in Cleveland in 2024 for SummerSlam. I don't think that this was the hottest crowd ever, so I wouldn't be surprised if the general sentiment was that this was a weak crowd. Don't get me wrong, I think everybody in the stadium had fun. My section had a lot of fun as well. I will say that the show was kind of missing that buzz from the crowd that forced everyone to be standing up throughout the entirety of a match or anything like that. We were sitting down for a good portion of the show, which often does signal not necessarily a weak crowd, but maybe not the strongest show. But yeah, you're not gonna hear from me the usual excuse of, oh, what, you guys think that the crowd wasn't good? We were loud in person. I've definitely been part of louder crowds, so I would love to hear your perspective of how it sounded at home. Did you think we were a loud crowd? Did you think that we were weak? Please let me know. The next thing I want to talk about is San Diego. I want more PLEs here because I love this city. I think that this is such a great place to host major shows because the stadium is like in the downtown area. It's so easy to maneuver. The weather is fantastic. The people are so much fun. The food is fantastic here in San Diego. I had a chance to meet literally hundreds of you today. I did a meet and greet outside of where the WWE merch store was, and it got crazy. Like about like 250 people showed up. We were meeting a bunch of you for like the 3 hours that I was there. It was a tremendous amount of fun, and I can't wait for you to see it in the vlog. I would love for WWE to return to San Diego. Okay, that's enough of the fluff. Let's actually start talking about the matches. Let's start things off by talking about the Women's War Games match between AJ Lee, Alexa Bliss, Charlotte Flair, Io Sky, and Rhea Ripley, defeating Becky Lynch, Lash Legend, Nia Jax, the Kabuki Warriors, Asuka, and Kairi Sane. Okay, so before I actually give my opinions on the match, the new format of War Games changed it so that the people waiting to go into the match are no longer waiting in the shark cages, which I'm a little bit perplexed by. I don't really know the purpose of making that change. I do think that there is a benefit, but also a downside. So I think it's worth discussing if the benefit is worth the downside. The downside is that you do lose a bunch of those memorable viral moments that we saw in the interactions that would happen within the cages. Of course, the super famous one is Roman Reigns putting his arm out to prevent CM Punk from going out there. But the huge benefit of doing it the way that they did is that everyone got an individual pop. Everyone got their big entrance. Everyone got their pyro if they had it. They got all the theatrics of a full entrance, and it felt more like a Royal Rumble environment than it did a War Games one. And maybe that's for better or for worse. I would love to get your opinion if you like this change. I'm kind of confused by it more than anything. I don't know that I love it yet. I don't know that I hate it, but I certainly understand why people would like it because you do get that thunderous pop of not knowing who's going to come out and finding out by hearing their awesome entrance theme. But I do think it's going to be a bummer here within the next few days when WWE would normally upload clips of all of the shenanigans that happens within the War Games shark cages. We're not going to be getting any of that, and I think that is a bit of a bummer. Ultimately, at the end of the day, like, it just simply isn't that big of a deal, but I think people will end up making it a big deal. All right, so Women's War Games, The finish was about as expected as I think many of us were predicting, which was the baby faces winning. When you have a team as stacked as that, as stacked as 5 literal Hall of Famers, it is tough to make a justification for the heels to win. Going into this match, my only justification was that this match could come down to AJ Lee and Becky Lynch, and allowing Becky Lynch to pick up the victory over AJ Lee would allow WWE to easily and organically build towards a proper one-on-one singles match between AJ Lee and Becky Lynch at a larger show like a WrestleMania, for example. They did end up going down the route of focusing on building towards a future matchup between AJ Lee and Becky Lynch, but instead of having Becky Lynch win, they had AJ Lee once again tap out Becky Lynch. And here's the thing, some people are going to say, in a classic internet wrestling community, this buries Becky Lynch. No, that's not what it does at all. Becky Lynch, let me just be super blunt and super clear here, is unburyable. She is the one woman on the roster that could take L after L after L, tap out as many times as she wants to, and she is still going to be at the top of the hierarchy, at the top of the pecking order in this world, because she's just that damn good. So her tapping out here once again to AJ Lee does absolutely nothing to the stock of Becky Lynch. If anything, it'll probably just continue to send her down a spiral of being terrified of AJ Lee and being obsessed with AJ Lee, which will further develop the match between them, with, again, I'm sniffing out to most likely be a WrestleMania. And I do think that was a good choice to go with that being kind of like the finishing aspect of this match, because aside from like Asuka and the things going on with Io Sky and Rhea Ripley, there really wasn't much of a narrative going on between the other women in this match. You could have maybe created one, but they chose to instead develop the already strong narrative between AJ Lee and Becky Lynch, and I honestly think that that was the right call. Now that the dust has settled from this match, it opens up so many different avenues. It opens up a bunch of the tag teams that are in here to go back into the tag team division. It opens up a bunch of single stars to go face off against Stephanie Vacad. So I am glad that this match is over, because now we can look to more centralized and more focused storytelling for singles and for tag teams. The actual in-ring work of the match, the actual chaos, I'm gonna be super honest with you, in person, it is hard to keep track of. I don't know if it's the same the experience watching at home, but when you're there in person, having to go side to side and just kind of pan all over the place to try and figure out where somebody is in this two-ringed cage structure is difficult. This is one of those matches that I do think is probably going to be better watching at home, because my view, even though I had great seats, third row seats, is smack dabbed in the middle, it's tough to see what's going on. It is tough to keep track of everything. But from what I did see, I love some of the stuff that Kairi Sane was doing. I thought that she had some of the best in-ring work and had some really memorable and likable caricature-like moments that really made me like her as a character. There was, of course, the dominance of Rhea Ripley when she came out. That was fantastic. She cleared house and looked like $1 million with the Art the Clown mask, considering she's been doing some work with like Art the Clown and Terrifier. The one that impressed me the most was Lash Legend. I thought that Lash Legend looked like she fit in. And I do think that she did more than just fit in. I do believe that she did a great job at contributing and being a really strong, powerful presence. And I thought it was a smart way to even out the fact that Lash Legend was stronger than everybody by having her be the one that got hit by the poison mist from Asuka and Friendly Fire. Charlotte Flair did a ton of work in this match. She was there from the very beginning with Asuka. Her and Asuka have always had really solid chemistry with one another. I thought that Alexa Bliss was really solid in this match. We had some good tandem tag team work between her and Charlotte Flair as well, which, you know, kind of reminds you that they're still being treated more as a tag team than they are as single stars, even though it looks to me like the outlook for them here in the near future is going to be singles glory. AJ Lee, to me, was, even though she got the finish, I do think that she kind of faded a lot into the background of this match. I didn't think that she stood out in any particular way from a physical standpoint or from the actual in-ring work. I thought she was fine, nothing bad, but certainly nothing that like made her a stand-up performer in this match aside from being the one that picked up the pin. Now, of course, if you want like the stand-up performer, it's Io Sky. Io Sky did the thing, right? Io Sky did the viral moment, the thing that's going to get replayed over and over and over again over the next couple of years. This time adding a different twist on it, putting on the trash can and doing a nasty, crazy swanton bomb on top of all of the heels. That was awesome. She took out all of the heels, which opened it up so that all of the baby faces were up against Becky Lynch, which forced Becky Lynch to retreat, run away, get surrounded by the heels, and ultimately get tapped out by AJ Lee. This was a fun match. I will say I feel like it was missing drama. I felt like it was missing a reason for you to truly care about the end result of this. And I don't think it's because of the work in the match. I think it's because of the lack of work and pave work that WWE did going into the match. I just didn't feel like they did a good enough job at making you care about the relationships that were happening in there. The only relationship that mattered was AJ Lee and Becky Lynch, and they knew it, and that's why they made that the finish. In a vacuum, if you're just watching this match for the sake of just the match, as opposed to getting invested into characters and storytelling, I think it is perfectly enjoyable. I had fun with it, but it just didn't feel like this was required to be in War Games. It just felt like a War Games for the sake of War Games match. But hey, I did have fun, but there are some clear gaps missing here. So from the person in attendance, I will give it a thumbs up from the fun in-ring match that we had, but from making you be invested as a wrestling fan to truly care about the result, I have to say that this gets a thumbs down. Now let's move on to Dominic Mysterio versus John Cena for the Intercontinental Championship. And this was a wild roller coaster of emotions. Dominic Mysterio is our new Intercontinental Champion, and there is a lot to discuss here. First and foremost, it's not just as simple as Dominic Mysterio winning the Intercontinental Championship. He did it in the dirtiest, most dastardly of ways. And I think we need to talk about all of the steps that led to, of course, the big moment, the big swerve at the end of the match. This might have been like the most shenanigans-filled Dominic Mysterio match of his entire career, and that's saying a lot considering he's dirty Dominic Mysterio. His matches often have a lot of outside interference. This was, for lack of better words, overbooked, but I'm going to give it a positive review, partially because of the overbooking. So let's talk about it. The first portions of the match are filled with a lot of interference from Roxanne Perez and Raquel Rodriguez. Like, they're out there getting physical with John Cena, punching him and knocking him out, and John is selling for them. Like, John is making Roxanne Perez and Raquel Rodriguez look like the most dangerous human beings on the planet out there. And then the next set of shenanigans comes from the fact that Dominic Mysterio looks to potentially have gotten injured. He lands on his shoulder. We just saw what happened to Penta. That's recently in our brain. So the people in attendance, we're all thinking, oh no, they're going to have to call out this match. Dominic Mysterio is hurt. I felt like we were getting worked once. I felt like the ref was maybe doing a little bit more theatrics than you usually would expect from a referee when there is an actual real injury. But it's during that injury where, once again, John Cena is out here making the girls from the Judgment Day look like the most dangerous human beings on the planet, because this man eats a Pop Rocks from Roxanne Perez and eats a nasty Tejana bomb from Raquel Rodriguez, which sets up Dominic Mysterio to come in and pick up the victory. But the ref finally figures it out that there is a bunch of shenanigans afoot, and he kicks out the girls from the Judgment Day, which then triggers more shenanigans later on in the match with the guys from the Judgment Day and Finn Balor and JD McDonough to come out there and take out John Cena again. But then we have the awesome Super Cena moment of Cena being able to counter those two and hit the double AA, not one AA after another. I mean, lifting JD McDonough and Finn Balor on his back to hit a double AA on both of them at the same time. It was a thing of beauty, and the people in my section absolutely lost their mind for that moment. And there is more drama in this match than just like the interferences, because there are some close calls. John Cena kicking out of a frog splash. We have the moment of Dominic Mysterio kicking out of an AA, like the typical stuff that you've been seeing from a John Cena retirement match, where we do have kickouts from finishers that do make you believe in the moment that is going to be the finish of the match. But of course, the big swerve, the thing that we need to talk about is Liv Morgan making her return, making it seem like she turns on Dom by slapping Dominic Mysterio. She turns around to John Cena, jumps and hugs him. And then I do see from the camera angle, because I couldn't obviously see it, I couldn't see Liv Morgan's face. Liv Morgan goes from smiling to serious, and then she kicks John Cena in the nuts. And if you didn't pick up on that, that's John Cena's heel turn. That was literally an homage to John Cena's heel turn. That's exactly how it went down. And with John Cena down, Dominic hits the frog splash, picks up the victory, becomes our new Intercontinental champion once again, and leaves John Cena without a title going into his retirement match. Okay, so there's some things to talk about here. I think first and foremost, I acknowledge that this is a very overbooked match, but I think it worked. I really think that all of these different pieces came together in a really nice, simple package that even though it has a lot of moving pieces, it's a very cohesive, tightly told in-ring story. The thing that I love the most out of this is the fact that John Cena went out on his sword, putting over so many people. He went out there and put over the girls from the Judgment Day and Dominic Mysterio. Sure, he kind of ate up JD McDonough and Finn Balor, but they're kind of used to that at this point. They're just kind of the punching bag of the main roster. But he made Roxanne and Raquel look like $1 million, put over Dominic Mysterio, and significantly put over the return of Liv Morgan, making it a really huge, impactful return. The only thing that could have made Liv Morgan return bigger was if she returned at the Rumble and won it. This is like the next biggest way to bring back Liv Morgan and making her a very like top of the mountain star within the heels on Monday Night Raw. So I like this. I like the match. I like the drama. I like the shenanigans. An overbooked mess, but it's like a delicious overbooked mess that I think you're really gonna like. And this was probably the match that had the crowd the hottest. Like it was like split down the middle, with Dominic being from San Diego, there being a huge Latino contingency. Dude, I met so many people that came from Mexico to watch this show, and they were obsessed with Dirty Dominic Mysterio. But it's still John Cena. Like, dude, this was a split crowd that still loved both of them. There wasn't a split in the sense where it was like one guy getting booed, one guy getting loved, and like there's like a split. No, it's like they were both getting loud cheers from everybody, but sometimes Dom would get louder cheers and sometimes Cena would get louder cheers. It was a pretty cool environment to be a part of for this match. And of course, like I got to be there for a John Cena entrance, wearing the John Cena retirement tour shirt. Yeah, it was an experience. I'm glad that I was there to see a John Cena babyface match. But yeah, Dom is our Intercontinental champion. I'm sure he'll continue to feud likely with Rey Mysterio, who did not make appearance on this show. And of course, John Cena's future is very simple. 2 weeks from now, he's of course going to be having his retirement match. This gets a thumbs up in every sense of the word. I love this. Next up, we have the match for the Women's World Championship between Stephanie Vaquer and Nikki Bella. This was the shortest match of the night, and I was ready to kind of give this an but you know what? I thought that the ladies worked really well together. I do feel like Stephanie did a lot of the carrying when it came to the technical work of this match, but at the very least, I felt like Nikki Bella was a very solid dancing partner for Stephanie Vaquer, and for whatever match that they were allowed to put on in the 12 minutes, I thought that they did the best possible match that they possibly could have put on. There were moments where the crowd was kind of uninvested in this match, but they're kind of towards the end, as we kind of knew what they were building towards, which was Stephanie hitting the Devil's Kiss so that we could all go, that was the big build. That was like the thing that we were all waiting for. And having it be broken by Nikki Bella, of course, got her the heat, got her the boos, but it got us to want that move even more. And not only did they deliver it, they delivered it in a really cool way by doing it on the Spanish announce table. I think it was the Spanish announce table, at least from my angle, I thought it was. It could have been the regular announce table. And then bringing it back into the ring and then doing it again. And then Stephanie hitting that just absolutely gorgeous corkscrew moonsault moonsault, which is just a thing of beauty. One of the most beautiful moves in the WWE today to pick up the victory. I think we all kind of expect Stephanie to be good, right? I don't think that's going to shock anybody. But I think for me, like my biggest shock in this match was Nikki Bella actually working pretty decently with Stephanie Vaquer. There were some weird moments where I felt like Stephanie maybe wasn't making Nikki Bella's offense look as dangerous as it otherwise ought to be sold to really, help create the illusion of like this being a fight. But I still felt like they worked together mostly pretty decently. I think the biggest problem with this match is just the simple fact that absolutely nobody was sold on Nikki Bella being an actual genuine threat in this match. I think we all expected this to be a runaway victory for Stephanie Vaquer, especially now with women's war games being over, giving Stephanie Vaquer even more matches and more potential storylines to really sink your teeth into that I think fans are going to be more invested in and more interested in than Nikki Bella. But I think we do kind of got to stop the narrative that there's no place for Nikki Bella. I think that she's put in the work, and I'm just not a huge fan of Nikki Bella, but I have to recognize it when I see it. I have to recognize improvement when I see it. I have to recognize decent work when I see it. And I thought that she was perfectly fine and serviceable and had decent chemistry with Stephanie Vaquer, which is a more positive outlook than I thought I was going to have about a Nikki Bella match in 2025. So you know what? I'll give this a thumbs up because it shocked me as to how not boring and terrible it was. But I certainly don't think that this is some like 5-star match that you got to be showing your friends. My positive review comes from the fact that I didn't think that this was terrible. I don't know what's going to be next for Nikki Bella. I don't foresee that this is going to be a continued feud. I just don't see it having the legs for it. And for Stephanie Vaquer, I don't know, dealer's choice. There's like 7 people I would love to see Stephanie Vaquer go up against. If I had my pick of the litter, we're looking at a rematch and feud with Io Sky would be fantastic. Rhea Ripley, Asuka's probably at the top of the list for me, and of course Becky Lynch would be great. Now let's talk about the main event. We have the men's War Games match, The Vision, Braun Breaker and Bronson Reed, Logan Paul, Drew McIntyre and Brock Lesnar taking on CM Punk, Cody Rhodes, the Usos, Jimmy and Jey Uso, and of course the Tribal Chief Roman Reigns. I'm certainly not going to be talking anymore about like the structure and the fact that there was no shark cage to have these interactions, but just think about like what awesome moments we could have had with like Brock Lesnar and Logan Paul being in the same cage. How silly that would have been. The moment of CM Punk and Roman Reigns in the cage to pay off what happened last year. This was certainly the match that would have greatly benefited from having those interactions be visible for the people at home and for WWE like social media to be able to tweet out and post on Instagram after the show. But hey, I don't want to just like completely focus on that. Again, at the end of the day, I just don't think that that's that big of a deal, but especially in the men's War Games match, because there are better relationships that were built across like between baby faces and heels and within the actual like structure of the each heel team and the babyface team. I do think that there were some really awesome interactions that people would have loved and paid to have been able to see, but we were kind of robbed of it with this new format. But yeah, let's talk about this War Games match because it's a really good War Games match. I'm inclined to say that from in-ring, right, from an in-ring perspective, that this may have been the best men's War Games match on the main roster thus far, not including NXT. NXT has had so many insane War Games matches that still completely dwarf anything that's happened on the main roster. Again, maybe take my thoughts here with a little bit of a grain of salt because I am coming from this perspective from somebody in the arena, and it's possible that I might have been won over by the insane star power in this match because being able to see freaking CM Punk, Cody Rhodes, Roman Reigns, Brock Lesnar, and of course, the greatest of all time, Logan Paul in the ring together is actually kind of insane. Like there's just so much star power in this match that like you could kind of like feel the weight of the aura of all of these names coming out Royal Rumble style, making the match even bigger, even badder, even scarier. And I do think that WWE relied heavily on the star power, and now being there in attendance and seeing that star power come out one by one, I can kind kind of see why they ultimately did that. Now, when I say that this is like the best men's War Games match, I do think that there was an aspect of War Games missing, which is brutality. I think like the craziest spot was Roman Reigns spearing Brock Lesnar through the table with Jey Uso on his shoulders for the F5, because we didn't really have anybody jumping off from the top of the cage in a way that was just mind blowing. And honestly, maybe I don't blame WWE for not having anybody jump off the top of the cage, considering what happened last year with Bronson Reed completely shattering his ankle, and anybody getting hurt in this match would have been detrimental for the build up to the Royal Rumble and the build up to WrestleMania. So maybe from like a health and safety perspective, after seeing what happened last year, maybe it's for the best that nobody did some insane daredevil thing. Oh, wait, no, you know what? Now I gotta stand corrected. We had Cody Rhodes when he made his entrance. He was being blocked from being able to enter, so he climbs the top of the cage and he does a crossbody. So never mind. Cody Rhodes did jump off the top of the cage, which is kind of ballsy because that's freaking Cody Rhodes. That is a guy that WWE depends on heavily when it comes to main event storytelling. So huge shout out to Cody for being the one to take that move, or do that move, I should say, because after what we saw last year, like I said, I wouldn't have been surprised if WWE didn't want to explore another crazy top of the cage move. You know who was awesome in this match? Again, from somebody that was in the arena third row, I really liked Logan Paul. Logan Paul looked really good in this match. Braun Breaker, of course, was fantastic. He's the one that ultimately picked up the victory. Roman Reigns was an absolute behemoth, a beast in this match, spearing everybody into oblivion. Yeah, when Brock Lesnar came out there, I was actually counting how many suplexes he had within the first couple of seconds, and I think he did like 7 different suplexes within the first 60 seconds of being in that match. Like, that man went out there and just ate everybody up. Hey, we even had some blood in this match. Both Cody Rhodes and CM Punk showed some color. I didn't think it was like super mega earned color, but hey, whatever. I'm here for blood and I'm never going to complain whenever we get it. You know what? Maybe on TV, the blood might have looked more earned. Just like being there in person, there was no moment where I'm like, oh yeah, that's going to cause a lot of blood. Like, we should be getting blood here. When I saw the blood, I was actually kind of a little bit surprised. Like, really? That made you bleed? But maybe at home it looked better. So you guys got to let me know. Okay, so like that's enough about the match. I really, like I said, from in ring, I thought that this was the one of the most chaotic, most fun men's War Games in the main roster. Yes, Jey Uso did run it back. Yes, I was in attendance, and yes, I did yeet and actually had a tremendous amount of fun. So now I can tell you in person that Jey Uso's entrance is ridiculously infectious, and you will yeet even if you don't like Jey Uso. But yeah, now let's talk about like the ending of the match, because that's of course what everybody is talking about. CM Punk has the advantage here over Braun Breaker, but then we have a masked mystery man in all black, which is at this point a meme in WWE because we see this happen so often. He hits CM Punk with a super kick and then hits a stomp, of course, implying that the hooded figure was Seth Rollins. And I'm here to tell you that I am not buying that in the slightest at all whatsoever. That is the most obvious misdirection of all time. But just because it's a misdirection doesn't mean that I know who the hell it is, because I genuinely have no idea. Of course, my gut like reaction immediately is Austin Theory, but like I don't know. Like, I genuinely don't know. This is going to be the thing that is talked about the most here over the next couple of days, and I'm pretty confident that we're probably going to find out as early as like Monday, because this will probably be the new member of the Vision, because again, I don't think Logan Paul is a member of the Vision. I think Logan Paul is not a full-time member, and he's probably going to get kicked out probably on this episode of Monday Night Raw and replaced with whoever this is, who I presume is going to be the next full-time member of the Vision. Betting odds right now still saying Austin Theory. And that opens up the door for Braun Breaker to hit the spear, pick up the win. The villains walk off. They get the pyro. They get to celebrate. That's great. And then the show ends with, I think, a nod and a tease going towards WrestleMania, because we have CM Punk and Roman Reigns actually kind of like show embrace to one another, respect to one another after the match, even though they lost. Cody gets involved in there and gets in Roman's face, and he doesn't reciprocate the same love and respect from Roman Reigns. And I think that's WWE trying to tell you that, hey, look, we might be going with Roman versus Cody Rhodes. I also think that this is a misdirection. I think that we will still be going down the path of Roman Reigns versus just CM Punk. It's just WWE hiding their cards and trying to create that illusion that they're going to be going Cody Rhodes versus Roman Reigns again. I just don't buy it. But ultimately, I think ending the show with that without having any sort of physicality, I don't think is the most impactful way to end the show. I feel like when you're going to do something like that, if you're going to create that tension, you could probably use an episode of Monday Night Raw or Friday Night SmackDown for this. I feel like the end of a PLE shouldn't just be planting a seed. I feel like it should be slapping you awake and telling you this is the direction that we're going. And with this being a Big Four PLE, I'm not satisfied with the end of the show being used to just plant a seed. I would have liked a better, clearer direction as to where they're going with maybe more physicality there at the end between the baby faces. But like I said, I think you would have already assumed that I'm going to give this a thumbs up because I am. I thought that the in-ring work was a tremendous amount of fun. The star power like blew me away, and we still have that ever looming plot twist of who was the hooded figure. And of course, now we're going to be chatting about what's next going into WrestleMania for Roman Reigns. But folks, we'll leave it there. Overall, I had a tremendous amount of fun at the show. I still would have liked more matches, but now like knowing like how I feel, because like the War Games matches were very long. I'm very tired. I do think a fifth match might have landed flat with this crowd because it was a crowd that had to sit through two 40+ minute matches, which includes like 50 minutes of overall presentation and all. But I still feel like with what WWE is charging, 4 matches is not enough. Maybe Survivor Series should be going to 2 nights. I don't know. But that's it, guys. I am done. Thank you so much for watching me yap here for the past 30+ something minutes. But that's it. I love you guys. Thank you so much for making this experience fantastic. And I love that I got to meet so many of you. Take care. Goodbye. Get out of here.